our state is on the path to failure.
Are we xenophobic?
I don't think it's xenophobic. Illegal immigration is quite a legitimate issue to be managed by the state. Did it have to take really so many days and culminate in this huge demonstration? Were there no early signs on the ground that we're getting illegal immigration for the state to intervene?
Are we still suffering a long, never-ending hangover, apartheid hangover?
Well, it's going to be with us because we haven't changed the consumption pattern. Corruption has become very attractive. Corruption pays because those who are involved in stealing resources of the country are walking the street. If you stand up in the public service to really oppose this, you were pushed out. Nelson Mandela was very critical of Robert Mugabe. You recall when he said to Robert, me and you, Robert, are too old. We must step down and let the younger generation. South Africa was very critical for the challenges within Africa, but South Africa had the economic muscles to be able to fund some of the activities.
King David Studio Podcast.
I've decided to get hold of Dr. Kingsley Makhubela, who, in my opinion, has a better sense of what happens in when it comes to the world of diplomacy, because he's been involved with Portugal in relation to South Africa and Kenya. And there's an award that's spoken about with regards to work you've done with Kenya as well. It's been CEO of Brand SA, a tenure that ended in the 2020s, 2022, I think.
2022.
So which is quite recent as well. So it is challenge that we're facing in South Africa right now of international diplomacy, international relations. I thought let's call someone who has a better sense of what goes on in that world. I hope you're well, Ray.
I'm doing well, Your Majesty. I'm good, thank you.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate that you made time to speak to us. We're recording this the morning after the 30th of June, a day that goes down as having been relatively peaceful. What is your general impression of the events of yesterday?
David, the ministers gave a feedback about how relatively peaceful the demonstrations were. But they ignored to reflect on one element that came out of the last few days, just before the 30th. That element, it has exposed how disjointed we are as South Africans, because you get South African communities that are complaining that they are being accused of being foreigners. So the tribal element is starting to surface. And I think that's one thing that we'll need to navigate very carefully coming out of this thing. Because if you look at people, David, who are demonstrating, are essentially ordinary people who don't understand the dynamics of ethnicity, who actually see each other. If you don't come from KZN, you are regarded as a Mashangan. And you've seen the same thing in the Northwest. People who are having total different surnames, they can't contest for political office because of their surname. So that's the challenge that we'd have to deal with as a country moving forward.
I look at it and say clearly there's a lot of work that the apartheid government has done to achieve separation. Because at the core of that type of misunderstanding is that we don't know, as a Mopedi, I'm clearly not familiar with other tribes, but it surprises me 32 years into a democracy that is there still that level of ignorance?
That's where we missed out on building this national cohesion. You remember at one stage, Father Smangaliso was running this, Mkajwa, was running this national cohesion. We abandoned it midway. Because that was meant to integrate us. You coming from Mamelodi, if you go to Mamelodi, you go to Tsakani, it's Shangan speaking. You go to SNS, total different. So the consumption pattern of communities is still the same. And that's why when there's tension, and tension arises, David, because of resources. The more resources are lacking, the more you're going to find this tension. And the more people start to realize that, actually David speaks this language than this. And they start coming up with identity issues.
Was yesterday's march, in your opinion, justified?
Well, there are two things when you look at these issues around illegal immigration. Illegal immigration is quite a legitimate issue to be managed by the state. But did it have to take really so many days and culminate in this huge demonstration? Were there no early signs on the ground that we're getting illegal immigration for the state to intervene? That's one issue. The other issue is, unfortunately, it's being integrated into the genetic politics of the country. The campaigns, it's now accentuated because the local government elections is coming. I was a bit taken back when the Minister of Police yesterday said, well, these people are saying they're going to demonstrate until the local government elections. This thing is really political. I think it has been political all along.
Absolutely.
But I always have also a suspicion that there is an invincible hand. And this invincible hand, it speaks to the Israelis.
You think?
If you look at the modus of operandi, you look at this and you look at the demonstration that happened in Iran, and you look at the utterances by Netanyahu when he said South Africa would regret taking Israel to the ICJ. I think there is a definite agenda to fragment South Africa along ethnic lines. And I think the state is very poor in terms of diagnosing this challenge and making early interventions.
Then clearly, as you put it, South Africa is very poor at observing this and doing right. Surely there must be an element of legitimacy when people in the townships and a lot of places in the country are saying, they're doing all of this. That alone it's not getting influence anywhere. It's Umama who lives next door to you who's saying, I know my child is struggling to get a job and that job has been given to a foreign national. That is not Israel that's involved.
David, not only that, the fact that people who run spaza shops, those who are coming from outside, they don't comply with the food requirement. They have their shortcuts in terms of the production of bread or whatever you have. Unlike the ordinary South African who goes through that because the inspection doesn't work. And that's why they're being, taken out of the market because those who are able not to comply, they pay less. So there are legitimate issues, no doubt about it, on illegal immigration. Very legitimate. But remember, David, this country was built on the blood and sweat of Southern Africa. Remember Rayu's song, Stimela? If you listen to those lyrics, it tells how labor migration evolved and labor migration came into the country. Now you have the grandchildren of these labor migrants who came from around the southern continent. So those are the dynamics that ought to be managed and nuanced very carefully. But I'm afraid the state is failing in terms of nuancing and manage these issues. I mean, I looked at the statistics. They were saying now, at one stage, South Africa had about the mining sector only, 350,000 people were coming from outside. So that was the space allocated for them. What happened to those families?
They didn't just pack up and go.
Just pack up and go. Some of them had pensions, but they don't get benefits at the end of their term. They are sent back. There are no benefits. And so there are huge economic challenges that we need to confront. And I think democratic South Africa should confront these issues totally different from the basis on which the apartheid South Africa used to deal with this matter.
Are we still suffering a long, never-ending hangover, apartheid hangover?
Well, it's going to be with us because we haven't changed the consumption pattern in the economy, particularly in the mining sector. It's a huge challenge. And the industrialization of this country was driven by miners. I saw a statistic that NUM members included a lot of people from within Southern Africa. But what happened to them? Can anyone track them and look at the benefits and look at if they were paid their legitimate pension? So those are the challenges.
Yeah. Let's move to an interesting space, the space of diplomacy. We saw Minister Lamola of the past few months, or weeks even, because the last 30 days have been very busy for a lot of departments, specifically his, where he had to justify a lot of South Africa's actions and movements. What, in your opinion, give us a brief history of how South Africa has been perceived post-94, the Nelson Mandela Rainbow Nation days, and how we have evolved over time in terms of how the world sees us. What is your take?
You know, David, in 1994, I had the privilege of joining the Department of Foreign Affairs in 1994. There was a very strong view within the continent that South Africa should take the lead. And people were saying at that stage within the continent, And South Africa was very reluctant to be seen to be the new kid in the block and taking leadership. And people were saying, it's going to make us very suspicious if you are refusing to take this leadership because you are the logical leader in terms of this. But South Africa then developed very coherent policies to deal with the integration of Africa. South Africa played a critical role in the transformation of the Organization of African Unity into the AU now. The AU. Now, the suspicion about South Africa failing to take leadership has created a problem. South Africa's biggest economy, and South Africa remains the biggest economy. But South Africa at that stage played a critical role in terms of the resolution of conflict. If you look at the foreign policy of South Africa at that stage, was a consolidation of the African agenda. At the heart of that was the resolution of conflicts in the continent. Myself, for instance, the government took me to school to go and do a PhD in conflict resolution as part of building institutional capacity to respond to this challenge. The leadership at the bureaucratic level within foreign affairs was phenomenal. Dr. Ayanda Nsaluba was the Director General. He's still one of the best thinkers that really envisioned where South Africa ought to be in the next few years. But after 2008, South Africa started to decline in terms of participation in the conflict in Africa, in terms of basic foreign policy approach within the continent. And I think that decline was driven by a host of related issues that South Africa was confronted with. David, at the height of South Africa's foreign policy, the economy was growing at 6%. The GDP was growing at 6%. We were not borrowing money. You remember Tito Mboweni saying that he will not go and borrow money from the IMF. And we had a lot of surplus.
That's the Mbeki years, right?
That's the Mbeki years. And we couldn't create more jobs.
I know. It is titled Jobless Growth.
Jobless growth.
Yes.
I think we needed to be innovative during that process, how to transition from this lot of surplus coming from a huge debt that apartheid has incurred. So we never had a vision, and we then lost everything. That's where the big problem is. We had strategic relationship with the European Union. I remember when I was at foreign policy, we had regular engagement with the United States around how to manage challenges in the continent. So South Africa was at its prime at that stage, but it has to do with two critical issues in my own view: strategic leadership and accountability. So we lost those issues. Strategic leadership and accountability, they're nowhere to be found now.
You're saying 2008 was a time when all that grip was lost. Why was that?
It's because the public service started to hemorrhage.
Okay.
There were a lot of people who were appointed who had no merits to be appointed into the public service. The police service, you recall the Mudluli years, the intelligence started to fragment. Generally, the public service started to collapse. And we started actually to borrow economy. The economic decline started during that time. And the borrowing went up. And those were the challenges. But they have to do with leadership. The absence of strategic and focused leadership.
We've never recovered.
We've never recovered.
Because we are talking about two terms, as in two leaders now. We've had the Zuma period. That's what we're referring to. And now we've had another president.
This current administration, the sixth administration and the seventh administration, they've never come up with how to deal with corruption. That has been the biggest problem. And corruption has become very attractive. Corruption pays because those who are involved in stealing resources of the country are walking the street. If you stand up in the public service to really oppose this, you were pushed out. No doubt about it.
You're decampaigning.
You are decampaigning, absolutely.
Yeah. You spoke about 94, South Africa being a logical leader in Africa. Why was that as the new kid?
Well, because South Africa had the leadership that was very focused, Pan-African leadership that Nelson Mandela had. That's why you recall when the Ogoni group were killed in Nigeria, South Africa stood up. And the continent appreciated the fact that South Africa started to be very critical of leaders within the continent. Nelson Mandela was very critical of Robert Mugabe. You recall when he said to Robert, me and you, Robert, are too old. We must step down and let the younger generation. South Africa was very critical for the challenges within Africa. But South Africa had the economic muscles to be able to fund some of the activities. We had at the time at the Department of Foreign Affairs, the Africa Renaissance Fund, which was meant to resolve some of the challenges. I mean, we set up training for Southern Sudan. We brought people like John Garang here, and we worked together with the University of South Africa to train them on how to run the government. So there was a lot of focus and looking at South Africa to try to help resolve some of the challenges. South Africa was involved in conflict resolution almost in every part of the continent, in West Africa, in East Africa, in Southern Africa. I mean, we got involved in trying to resolve the conflict in the Comoros. I mean, I flew to the Comoros many times to try to bring rival factors to the table. And that's why the respect came from in terms of South Africa paying attention on these issues. That's why David, South Africa ended up being in the G20, ended up being part of the outreach program for the G7, ended up being involved in the BRICS, because South Africa was seen as a logical leader that represented the aspiration of the African continent.
Are we still the logical leader?
That is being debated now. It's been seriously challenged. Our leadership is not only challenged in the continent, it's challenged even within Southern Africa. We could not come up with a strategic approach to resolve the conflict in Mozambique. We had to withdraw. We could not strategically intervene to resolve the conflict in the Congo. We actually sent our troops there to go and protect Tshisekedi. And now, David, you have outbreak of Ebola. Tshisekedi, he's going to watch the UEFA Championship. Now he is in Miami watching the World Cup when everyone is descending on the Congo to try to resolve this conflict. So it tells you the poor leadership that we're having. And South Africa, unfortunately, was involved in trying to protect that man, and we lost our troops trying to protect Tshisekedi.
We sit here now today, and part of the reason I invited you is so we can talk about how the world sees us. There's a narrative that speaks of why is it that Africa doesn't solve its own problems? But I feel that question is loose. Why doesn't that question then say, why doesn't African leaders in their own countries solve their own problems? With your experience in international relations, what is at the heart of the problem of African leadership at its core? Why is it that this entire continent tends to struggle like this with leaders that do not look after their own people?
David, the biggest challenge is to resource our own activities and resource our own strategies. For quite some time, the African Union is dependent on foreign aid to resolve conflicts. I mean, take, for instance, the outbreak of Ebola. The only country in the continent that has made a huge contribution is South Africa. South Africa is giving the AU $5 million to deal with the Ebola challenge. But if you look around the continent, no one is putting money forward. They're depending on foreign donors to put it. Now, those countries that are putting money, they have their own conditionality.
Of course.
And that's what has compromised
no free lunch.
Our leaders. No free lunch.
Yeah.
In diplomacy, we say there's a catch. There's no free lunch. And I think the current crop of leadership are unable to detect the catch and be able to navigate that. I wish we can go back to the early 90s here and be able to fund our own activities as a continent. We have, excuse me, we have enough resources to do that.
Yeah.
But why can't we do that? We keep most of our money abroad. Why can't we do that? I mean, South Africa has one of the largest pension funds, and yet the borrowings, people still go to Europe to borrow at a very high cost. Why can't we use that? Collectively bring our pension fund together to fund some of infrastructure development within the continent. David, if you are unable, even in the basic street where I come from in Meadowlands, if you are not seen as a parent who can resolve conflict in your own house, people are unlikely to invite you. When people look at the capability to resolve conflict, they're going to look at what track record do you have.
True.
We have abandoned resolving conflict in the DRC, in the Sudan. And the next thing, you find a group of African leaders flying to Ukraine and Russia to go and mediate. I mean, that conflict is above their pay grade. They are not resolving this, and no one took them serious. As a result, what happened to that? It just collapsed. I wish one day, David, you could get our politician and ask them about what happened to that initiative to resolve the Russia-Ukraine conflict.
You started it.
You started it. What happened?
But we still play in the global space. For us to get involved in the ICJ almost says, we're talking about pay grade, almost says we recognize ourselves as an important player in world politics as South Africa. Are we still respected like that in that regard? Because our contribution in the ICJ was quite a pivotal one that made a huge contribution, whatever the outcome. What is your take in that regard?
You know, the shortcomings of the ICJ approach that South Africa never mobilized within the continent to get strong support within the continent. South Africa never mobilized within the Gulf states to get support around this. South Africa, when they isolated, the most fortunate part, it was a just cause. And as time goes, it refined everything. And that's why now it's popular for countries to jump and join the case. But South Africa never mobilized better resources in terms of support. Had South Africa done that, maybe people would have sabotaged it, no one knows. In retrospect, you may say that South Africa should have mobilized limited countries to get involved with. And that's why when the United States started to isolate South Africa on this, no one backs South Africa, even within the Europeans. They never came to South Africans backing. We look at Macron now, during the G7 now in June, early this month, he decided to disinvite South Africa, caving in to the pressure by the American, inviting William Ruto. And why would Europe do that? And maybe it's a discussion for another day, David, to look at the conflict between Europe and the United States and how it's dividing everyone. And this multipolarity that everyone is talking about. What are the sources of power? How is the influence? I mean, if you look at, I don't know if me and you are going to talk in details about multipolarity, but it's a subject for another day if it's not involved here, to look at what do we mean by multipolarity? What are the sources of power? Do we have new sources of power? And there are new sources of power. I mean, look at Iran. Iran has decided to use the Strait of Hormuz as a source of power to project
100%,
power
yeah.
and defeat the only superpower so far that is there.
I sit here and wonder, and I want to hang around the space what we're talking about now. South Africa's role in international politics. Don't we have enough problems of our own for us to play in a bigger game? So, Untwana Soweto, you would understand soccer very well. Should we be playing in UEFA if we are struggling with our own PSL here? And we are Rekumvela League, but we think we can punch above this. Did we even need to be a part of these international global politics where else we have our own bigger problems here?
You know, David, I know you are a biggest supporter of Sundowns.
Of course.
As you try to build Sundowns, I think the bigger picture that you have in mind is Sundowns that plays at the club championship, the World Club Championship,
and does well.
You must dream to be able to operate at a total different level, and that's how you develop a policy. That's why people call it vision. A vision is not limiting yourself to your space, it's looking beyond your space. And as I think South Africa is quite correct to look beyond the challenges we're having at home, to look at how integrated will a South Africa be in a world that is peaceful, in a world that is just and fair, in a world that is able to trade with itself without any challenges. I think once you have that kind of a dream, you'll be able to build institutional capabilities internally that will be able to take you there. And I think the dream is quite correct, no doubt about it. And that's why this thing called a vision is not limiting you to what you can see. A vision is for you to be able to see what all of us can see
Absolutely.
and be able to motivate us to reach that goal.
With that vision in mind, let's go back to the reality, the risk of isolation. The risk of isolation from the rest of the world. Again, using ICJ as a reference. Do we learn any lesson from it? Do we say maybe we could have approached it differently, or we were right to approach this and we did what we had to?
I hope there will be a review within our politicians to say, successful as this may be, in retrospect, what are the things that we should have done? And one of the things I think is to build enough solidarity. The Americans decided to go to war with Iran now, as an example. They never mobilized their partners within NATO. Didn't even tell them. So when it was tough, they went back to them to say, come and join us. They said, we're not going to do that. South Africa should have done that. I think there's one lesson that building coalition in this era is much more critical than going alone. You can't run alone, you know. That's why Nelson Mandela used to have this thing that you have to keep on running. And as you fall, you must have the courage to stand up. But you need somebody sometimes to pick you up, to stand up. I think we lost out on that. That's the only challenge that we have had. And that's why when we are isolated by big powers, we have no one who came to beg us. That's where the problem is.
Well, with that in mind, South Africa's isolation currently is self-inflicted in that regard. But when we look at our neighbors, are we in a position to have enough friends around us that are willing to go with us to battles such as those?
The invincible hand. We come back to it, David. Is it a coincidence that the Americans start to speak about South Africa that is committing genocide and basically decide to shut the door on us? The Americans are not ignorant. They have one of the most sophisticated intelligence. They have about 16 intelligence agencies. And you can't tell them, none of them went to the administration and said, there's no genocide there. Yeah. That's why. Did the Europeans stand up to back us against this? No. Now you are seeing this question of attack on foreign immigrants. And there are countries that are starting to fragment within the continent. Ghana.
Yes.
Because it's very close to Israel. I expected when Ruto was here that he raised this thing with our president. Even though they're not admitting, the president spoke about sending envoys. I think Ruto convinced him to say, well, send people to go and try to explain what me and you are talking about. That's a way of getting out of it. But you have also in the Horn of Africa, Ethiopia, much closer to the Israelis. Yes. You have the Rwandese, much closer to the Israelis. You have in our backyard, Swaziland, very close to the Israelis. And we go back to what Netanyahu said, that South Africa would regret. And we look at modus operandi of the Israelis. I think this thing of isolating South Africa within the continent, it's real. Because Ghana is speaking about taking South Africa to the AU, to make South Africa a permanent agenda item to discuss the AU. To a large extent, I think they are succeeding in terms of sentiments, because you've seen the Secretary General of the UN raising serious concern about the attacks on foreign nationals. So if we are isolated within the continent, isolated by the United States, and remain confused in terms of where we stand with the Europeans, because they use us where appropriate, but they abandon us. They never stood up for us to go to the G20.
No.
They are not raising the same that the Americans are saying South Africa should. They never stood up. Macron was hosting. As the host, he has the prerogative to invite anyone, but he decided to disinvite David, invited South Africa in December and disinvite. Yeah. It's the most humiliation thing that you can do, but it tells you the level of isolation that they are having towards South Africa.
Yeah.
And it's going, if this succeeds, we'll become a pariah state, and we're going to be very careful how we deal with this thing within Africa. I mean, there's a lot of fake news in the social media that you may have seen about the killings and the footage that it's used here. But all of it's intended to denigrate the country.
Yeah.
Is the state doing enough to communicate with the rest of the world and communicate with South Africa? And I thought communicators like you raise some of these issues and say we can help you to communicate these issues, because this communication highway that we're seeing It requires agile state. It requires prompt response. It doesn't require procrastination that we're seeing. And maybe you guys can help in terms of putting exact information, not to spin things, but explaining the context of this issue. Like the legitimate question of illegal immigration. No one would accept people who move in and out without any identity. It's quite legitimate.
Yes.
But the problem, of course, is to integrate that into the country's political agenda, and it becomes an issue of competition within political parties as to who can do it better.
South Africa is labeled as a xenophobic country. Are we xenophobic?
David, if you look at the definition of xenophobic, at the heart of the definition is the hatred for other people. I don't think it's xenophobic. There's in the literature of conflict resolution, there are two critical issues. There's the school of instrumentalist and the school of primordial. Now, the school of primordial says we are born with some level of identity. We're born blacks, we're born tribes and so on, that you can't take away from that. But the instrumentalist school of thought, saying the fact that we're born different, leaders see that as an instrument, the identity as an instrument to pursue collective security, to pursue their political agenda, and to pursue power. So they use that. So there's a use of this thing, which I'm afraid this country will need to start looking at how identity can be used to perpetuate political power and to continue to fragment the country. It's not only limited to foreigners. When foreigners are gone, people are going to look.
Yes.
And we're starting to see that now surfacing. I mean, I listened to people during this demonstration. I'm Tsonga speaking naturally. And you hear them saying, Amashangani, Mamahambe.
Yeah.
And yeah, you get serious concern if you start to hear this language.
Yeah.
So we're gonna scavenge on the carcass of each other as South Africans when these people are gone. Is there a discussion within the country around the Europeans who are migrating here? There's a large community and growing community of Ukrainians in this country. I wonder, how did they end up in this country? Is there anyone talking about it? No.
It's clearly our problems are big in terms of border management. And I'm curious to know, that was this a deliberate act on our part, or we were just negligent in how we let this problem become bigger than it is?
You know, I listened to the ministers and the security cluster and the bureaucrats saying they're going to use 600 million to deal with this problem. And the question that comes to mind is that, why did we leave this to reach this level? Because policing should be a daily activity. And amongst other things, it should include the border control and the movement of people in and out of the country.
Yes.
And we've been resourcing Home Affairs and border management for many years. That's what they needed to do. Where did we fail? And I think they need to go to the drawing board to identify the failure of that to reach the scale. The state doesn't even know up to today how many illegal immigrants we have in the country.
There's a claim number of 2.4 million.
Well, sometimes they talk about 5 million.
You see, so that alone tells you.
They don't know.
Yeah.
So that's where the big problem is, to identify issues and to develop models to be able to do that. So surely there's been shortcomings in terms of the state. And I think we need to go back to the drawing board to look how to build institutional capacity. And institutional capacity is not based around one individual.
No.
It's actually to ensure that it goes into the bureaucracy. And it actually outlives me and you. And those who are coming in, they'll keep on improving it. So we failed to do that. But I hope they'll be able to go back to the drawing board this time around.
Yeah.
But I've never seen that. David, if we've seen that, how the Libyans got in here to go and get military training in a camp here. We had
not 5 of them.
No, not 5. About more than 50.
You know what I mean? A bus full of...
Yeah. Then we had 2 planes that landed here from Israel with the so-called Palestinians. Do we know where they are? Those people who were said to be refugees. For a plane to leave point A to go to point B, there's a host of clearance that is done.
Yeah.
The passenger list, everything. Did we know? What happened to them?
And that's a recent event.
It's a recent... And they told us they're going to investigate and come back to us. Have they come back to us to tell us what's going on with this issue? Nothing.
Yeah.
And the problem is that we as citizens were unable to go to government and say, well, tell us what happened to your investigation on the foreigners who were trained here militarily. Tell us what happened to the 2 planes that came from Israel with the Palestinian refugees. Where are they? If we are able to do that and hold our politicians to account on that, I think that's one starting point.
I guess historically, South Africans know how to go to the picket lines, know how to march and raise their issues. That's how this country was built politically. So that means inherently yesterday's events are justified in terms of we've tried everything and now this is all we can do to hold government to account. Do you think yesterday's events or building to yesterday's event were effective? Because we've never seen government communicate so much than during COVID. We've never seen government and different departments come and address us so often. Surely there must have been something effective about what happened yesterday.
You know, credit must be given to the demonstrators, no doubt about it, that they conduct themselves by and large very peacefully. They raise their issues in a very respectful manner. There have been few incidents, but in total, if you look at that, the demonstrations went very well, and credit must be given to those people. And I hope we are maturing as a democracy how to raise our issues. We're not going to trash things, throw the trash on the street. That's one thing.
Or burn or loot.
Exactly. Yeah. And credit must be given to the police for behaving very well. My fear, David, has been if the police or the soldiers shoot and kill one person, it may spiral out of control.
True.
But the control has shown. So I think in terms of crowd control, we're maturing also as a democracy. So credit must be given to those institutions. But the optic outside there were not quite good. I watch international media about this thing. They are still working on the prism of last demonstration where people were killed. Yeah. Some of them were showing those footages.
Marikana. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They were showing those footages, yeah. You know, the 2008 killings or they were showing those on international media. But it comes back to the communication. That I'm saying you guys should help government to better project its
government must be open to be helped. Government must never open to be helped.
But you must reach out to them to say, here is a picture of what happened during, take this demonstration and look at the international media and say, this is not correct.
Yeah.
So you guys should have been upfront in reaching out to international media to give them proper footage to project without telling them what to do. But because I guess maybe they didn't have recent footage. And that's why they
used what they had.
The fear was based on the 2001, the 2008, and those pictures played a prominent role in actually demystifying this thing that this demonstration was peaceful. Yeah. They were peaceful.
Has it affected how the rest of the world sees us? Again, following from the statement you made, they were using old footage. The narrative was already tainted. However, it worked out well. But it still hangs on to the reality of foreign migration, mabahambe, attitude, and all of that. How is that affecting how the rest of the world sees us right now in relation to the events of June 30?
David, the biggest issue, it's the perception that has been created. The civil society members are able to define the agenda and give ultimatum to the state. And they are able to take the laws into their hands. And that's what the government has to manage. They have to manage this question that people cannot take the law into their hands.
100%.
And people can demonstrate and people cannot give ultimatum to the state. The state is the state and will be the state. So those are the issues that are really affecting the reputation of the country outside. That the state seems to be paralyzed by few individuals, rhetorics that you're seeing on the social media and other platforms, the language that is being used. Those are issues that have become very negative. And I hope and I do know that these demonstrators, they had the best interests of the country at heart.
100%.
But I think they have to be educated in terms of communication. You guys must help them to frame their communication, because not use inflammatory language that is taken out of context and the international media runs with that because, David, you know better. Bad news, they spread like wildfire. Good news, they don't.
Good news is boring.
Good news is boring.
Yes. We want it to be exciting.
Absolutely.
Yes. How do we overcome this current perception?
We need to strengthen our diplomatic outreach. The unfortunate part is that the Department of International Relations is being hollowed seriously. They are not being appropriately funded. I think this year they are receiving funds of close to $7.2 billion.
Is that a drop?
This is what they have for this year.
Yeah.
2026-27. But if you look at countries like the United Kingdom for the period of 2025-2026 used about 80 billion pounds.
Wow.
The United in foreign policy only. The United States uses $160 billion for foreign policy only. The Russians use $500 million. The Chinese, they use $9 billion for foreign policy.
Wow.
Now, if you want to play in that space, you must be able to fund democracy. And the argument always that you hear amongst political parties here is that there's value for money in democracy, in diplomacy. Diplomacy, it's a very huge concept. If you look at the Vienna Convention, there are about 5 areas of diplomatic function. One of it is building friendship. And friendship comes up when the chips are down. Your friends come up to defend and protect you.
Yeah.
But when you are unable to do this work, when the chips are down, no one will come because they don't understand where you are.
Yeah.
So they will believe in the fake media, the deep fake that is being circulated. That's where the challenge is.
You have been very involved in these friendship building exercises. It's hard enough to build a friendship with neighbors in the society we exist in today. And you were directly involved with Kenya and Portugal. What did you learn about building friendship and its value?
The critical value of friendship that I've learned is that your friends sometimes are your good spokesperson on critical issues that you take. Sometimes you become very humble in wanting to blow your own horn. So they will blow your horn when it's tough for you. Yeah. And they'll blow your horn when it's very exciting for you. So you need those friends. That's why you can't put monetary value in friendship. Even in normal societal engagement, you can't put monetary value in friendship.
Yeah.
Because friendship, it's based on a common understanding. But common understanding doesn't mean that you don't have differences. It's accepting that there are areas that me and you differ. But there are areas that me and you agree, and we can accentuate areas where we agree and work on those issues. And I think we failed in doing this, and that shows the weaknesses in our diplomatic engagement. That's why if we were active and very aggressive in our diplomacy, we wouldn't be at the stage where there's a clear agenda to isolate us. But some of the countries that have been very close to South Africa, what happened if your friends are turning against you? What is that you are not doing or that you are doing? Has there been any detailed reflections amongst government to say what is that we are doing or that we are not doing, and how do we address those issues? I'm very interested to know if indeed there's a detailed reflection on that.
Who has been our friend of the past 32 years?
That has been a huge challenge, even starting with the Mandela era. We've been friends with everyone. And people understood us, that we want to be friends with everyone.
Yes.
It's virtually impossible. There are people that you look at the level of disagreement, that you virtually disagree with all of them. And you can agree that this ones you're not going to engage with them because there's no common platform that brings you together. And that has been a challenge. But the world has evolved so much now. It's no longer an ideological world. It's a world based in interest. If NATO, David, can sit down in the Netherlands and come up with a one-pager statement, and yet previously it used to come up with like 40, 50 documents on everything around the world, but substantively nothing, just praising the host for hosting them because they are afraid of dealing with their challenges. It tells you how this world is less ideological than it is. If the American president can go to China and praise the Chinese president and use the language that he did, it tells you how the world is evolving.
Based on
we,
deals now.
Based on deals, based on interest.
Yes.
Do we really understand what is our interest with every country that we engage with? Are we able to keep on cultivating those issues? I don't know.
So do we have any friends now?
I don't know who our real friends actually.
Yes.
It's a big problem if I were to sit here and say, our Malawians are our friend, and you look at inflammatory language coming out of Malawi towards South Africa, I doubt that. You then say the Ghanaians are our friend, the Nigerians are our friend. I doubt that. And that's our anchor state within the continent that we think we must work with. I don't know if we have friends.
We have friends.
But the question, why did we lose the friends that we had in the past?
Let's talk about the friends we had in the past, in recent years. Who's been our friend and we lost?
The Americans are our best friends.
Still?
They were our best friends.
They were our best friends, yeah.
We had a binational commission at one stage that was led by Deputy President when Mandela was there. Al Gore was the American side in Thabo Mbeki. And that went on for many years. We had a binational commission with Germany, a lot of Western countries, even some developing countries within the continent.
Yeah.
We no longer have them. And those binational commissions we were having, they were discussing key strategic issues. The ones that we are having are purely logistical now. We've lost discussing substantive issues.
We still have well-functioning diplomatic offices all around the world. Are they any effective in relation to the statement you just made now that we don't have friends really anymore?
You know, I was on a panel with two parliamentary members, one from the ACDP, the other one from the DA the other day, and they sit on a foreign affairs committee in Parliament. It was quite shocking what they were saying. That some of the embassies we have in, they're no longer funded. The heating system has collapsed. There's no funds. The buildings are dilapidated. Our diplomats have nowhere to sleep. So it's a huge challenge. And at the end of the day, they were saying last year, DECO sent back to government 1 billion rand. And DECO has been arguing that they are not properly funded, but they sent back 1 billion rand.
Let's explain. If you send back money, it means you were given, you didn't spend it.
You didn't spend
now
it.
You have to return it.
You have to return it to the treasurer.
Yeah.
Now, how do you return money to the treasurer when your needs are so high? When you are saying to lawmakers you need more funding, but that tells you in terms of the actual work that is being done, that there's lack of work because they are not better resourced and yet they are able to send back money. And we've been there in the past, David, when we were at DECO, and I always give credit to this gentleman, Dr. Ayanda Nsaluba was the Director General. He turned around the department from sending money back. I mean, at one stage, we send 1 rand back at the end of the financial year.
Yeah.
We spend everything. But not only spend everything, but we can show the value for that.
True.
The economy was growing at 6%. As you know, the reputation of South Africa was sought all over the world.
Yes.
As a diplomat, if you walk into any capital, people want to talk to you. People want your ideas, decisions that they have to make. They needed to consult you. So those were the value of measuring the impact of our diplomacy. But it has disappeared. And I think, going back to two issues, strategic leadership at the bureaucratic level, strategic leadership at the political level. You can't send 1 billion back and tell me that you are managing the entity and that you are needing resources.
Yeah.
It just, those are the contradictions we're having. And you hear on daily basis, this is what's going on with our missions. It's just shocking.
And we are, isn't this the time when those type of funds should be well used, because this is when they're needed the most?
This is the time. If you look at communication, for instance, I think communication now has improved compared to when I was at DECO. Now, there's WhatsApp. When I was at DECO, there was no WhatsApp.
Yeah.
So the level of information highway and the reach out has improved. Now, you can zoom in meetings. It requires money. It requires resources. And the content that is built into it to reach out. And also to counter disinformation requires money. It requires, there are a lot of companies now that are there in terms of communication. that can help the state. You don't have to migrate these issues permanently into your... No, you can outsource some of this functions. They can outsource what you are doing to be able to explain to the world what's going on and assist them in packaging these issues.
DECO has a radio station, for that matter.
Ubuntu.
Yes, you see, you know about it. And the question I guess we ask in moments like this is, how effective is it? And does it reach the audience that it's meant to reach?
I think there are functions, in my own view, that the state has to outsource to outside. And part of that, it's on the digital communication. You can't run that because things are happening at a rather fast speed.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sitting here with you. By the time I go back home, I'll try to catch up with friends around the world. And I will spend the whole day trying to catch up because I've lost so much, because there's so much information.
Yeah.
There's so much disinformation.
Oh, as well.
So how to manage those issues? Now, if you have people who are doing this on a daily basis as part of their function, they're able to feed this information back to you and assist you in terms of how to handle these issues.
Do you know, I sit here and wonder, as a diplomat, what is it that we as ordinary South Africans and maybe even political parties do not particularly understand about international relations and diplomacy? Because as an ordinary South African, I worry about the electricity and the price of bread and how expensive things are and potholes. My concerns are immediate, are micro in that context. So what is it that we don't get about international relations?
David, is a fact that diplomacy is continuous negotiations. As one person said, and it's innocuous, it's harmless. It's something that you need to pursue continuously. Now, if you understand continuous negotiations, is that the benefits for continuous negotiations in the long run are so huge. They manage your reputation, they manage your standing, they manage your brand. A brand management is not something that you do once. It's a continuous massaging of the brand. Do we do that? And the continuous massaging of the brand, you don't keep on preaching to your own people and think you're going to reach out to that. You have to. That's why you have diplomacy. You speak to outsiders. And if you build good bridges, they're going to help you to massage and manage the brand reputation of the country.
So we don't understand that as ordinary South Africans.
I think we'll start to understand when there's a foreign direct investment coming into the country. The economy is growing. We're able to sell our produce around the world. If you see it somewhere in Limpopo, you're producing tomatoes or mangoes, or you're producing avocados, as long as you see there's a market to go and sell your avocados. That's when you're going to see our diplomats are actually connecting us. You need to translate that in those kind of tangibles, however small it may appear to be. But the bigger picture is that once you build friends, they'll come back to you and say, you know, I have a friend who likes your avocados next door. Why don't you go and sell these avocados next door? Yeah. That's what friends are there for.
We exist in a time politically in South Africa where we have phrases like it's our time to eat. People like that clearly can't have a global view of politics. Do we have a political class of people who understand exactly what international diplomacy is, or they just want a seat in parliament?
30 years later, David, has the government educated ordinary people to understand what diplomacy is all about? Has the government been able to show the benefit of diplomacy to ordinary people? Because remember, it's the responsibility of the state to showcase this. And it comes back. And I've been there, and perhaps I'm much more guilty for that. When I was in the public service, that we paid little attention to marketing. Marketing, it's a normal phrase that often is associated with profiling politicians, having their photos everywhere.
On billboards.
But lacking on the content.
Yes.
I think if you do that, and a lot of marketing, you know better than I, is done behind the scene. It's a lot of dirty work that is being done.
Quietly.
It doesn't require suits. It requires overalls. It requires somebody to wear the gumboots and walk in the sewage to show this is where we're coming from and this is where we are. Yeah. So I think we pay little attention in terms of resourcing the marketing. The marketing in a total different phrasing, it's the branding of the country. So I think we've spent very little resources to do that.
You've led Brand SA. What were some of the challenges you found when you arrived? And you probably left some of them still there. What was achieved during that time?
I mean, when I was at Brand SA, the budget of Brand SA was about 200 million rand. What do you do with 200 million rand?
Yeah.
If you were to run a brand advert in the United States, you pay much more than that. You may have seen...
The insurance sector alone spends 20 times that. And they're selling funeral covers.
Just cover.
Yeah,
can you imagine before you go to the content? Now, I think it's when I was at Brand SA, was the resources to better manage and project the country. It requires a lot of money. You may have seen the discussions at tourism for sponsoring of spares and so on. But if you look at it from the marketing and the branding perspective, when you score a goal behind the goalkeeper, that billboard that shows the country that is watched by
millions,
maybe billions of people around the world.
Yeah.
Somebody start to say, I actually like that.
Or who are those?
Who are those?
Yes.
So the value, you can't put 200 or 20 million as, is it worth it? And that's what people are worried about, is the impact. How do we influence the mind? And that's why people who are successful in marketing, they keep on projecting this thing. You know, the other day I was talking with my wife, the issue of a very terrible marketing thing on the television. I won't tell who. And I was saying, it's so bad. She was saying, it's so bad. I said, because you are recognizing it. That's why. Yeah. That's what they want.
Yeah, they want you to see.
They want to see it. Yeah. And they want you to get your attention. They want your attention. Yeah. You know about it. We talk about it. So I think there's no understanding about that and how to resource this. We only look at marketing in terms of projecting individuals, not projecting the outcome of what we can give to the world and how we can contribute to a better world. We don't do that much.
So as a Brand SA leader, inherently you're saying even those who are leading the country do not understand the value of a division similar to yours.
There's no understanding. I mean, I had the privilege also to be the Director General of the Department of Tourism. One of the issues was the marketing of domestic tourism. There was no understanding what this country can offer
short
to
left,
me and you.
as we now know.
At the short left.
Yeah.
But how to resource short left. And fortunately, Lisicha was the DG that time. We went to him. He gave us 100 million rand to do domestic marketing. 100 million. He says, it's yours.
There you go.
Because you see, the Chinese at that stage, their tourism sector was 98% domestic.
Wow.
Only 2% was outside. 98% was domestic. During tough times like in COVID, they would survive. Because there's no movement, the borders are shut.
Yes.
That's why when we confronted tough time here, the small business disappeared because they were unable to compete in that market. They are not used to do that. Those are the learning lessons that one has.
Have we improved from your time? And again, now your perspective is outside in.
I don't think we have improved. And mainly because of resourcing. We always argue that there are no money.
Yes.
Somebody said to me, in order to create money, you must create space. You must take what is in your pocket, give it away to create more space.
Yes, of course.
If you don't do that, you're unlikely to make money. You keep on complaining that we don't have enough resources. We'll never have enough resources. But we have to resource things that we think that will bring value to us. And we have to tighten our belt in other areas. But things that would bring value, like the question of tourism, you need to resource your tourism much better. You need to market it. You know, anyone sitting somewhere in France looking at going away for a holiday, they need to see something and say, actually, this is much cheaper. I can go and do this. But for
my
people
pound
to know
can go far in
can
South
go
Africa.
far.
Yes.
You need to go and showcase this.
Yeah.
If you don't showcase that, you're not going to get people knowing. The only thing they will know is a negativity that is projected in the international media, unfortunately.
Do you think events of the past few days in South Africa, immigration, will affect tourism?
It will definitely affect the image of the country, particularly seeing crowds walking in the street with their knobkiris and spears and so on. Tourists, they want to have a good time. They don't want to be confronted by this. So the images that are there will be multiplied and played in different social platforms, and they'll be exaggerated by competitors of South Africa.
Yeah.
Deepfake would play a critical role in terms of misrepresenting some of these issues.
Have we noticed, have you noticed the Rwandan tourism campaign with soccer, where they have visited
And my team,
Rwanda?
Arsenal.
Of course, there you go. So you know this well. Do you think it has made a difference for?
It's making a huge difference. I mean, I saw it sometimes when Arsenal scores a goal. It's visit Rwanda.
Yeah.
And I'm sure people around the world, they're asking, where is Rwanda? They probably Google it now. And they probably Google, what can I see in Rwanda? And maybe they may get attraction if you're advertising. If they can go to a site and Google and the site direct them
They'll find
to the offering.
They'll find gorillas, visiting gorillas, and all
Absolutely.
Of that. It's a big attraction.
Go and look into the genocide thing, see where the people come from. So I think it's making a big impact.
Yeah. We tried this. You remember when we wanted to sponsor
Space.
and that didn't go down well.
It's because of our politicians and understanding the rent. You know, the exchange to the pound that time, I think, was about 20 rand or
yes.
22 rand to the pound. Now, if you translate that into dollars, it's a huge problem. When I was in tourism, I used to encourage South Africans, if you go to London or to New York, you want to have a good meal, don't take your pounds and convert it to rand, because you won't be able to buy it.
You'll be depressed.
You'll be depressed.
Yes.
Yeah, because you go and spend 1,000 rand for nothing, and you think, and 1,000 rand for nothing that time, it is about 10 pounds, 12 pounds, you know.
That's incredible how, so you say clearly there was a misunderstanding of the intention.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And a lot could have been benefited from a campaign like that.
But maybe the failure within the management also to try to explain what is the value. Remember, if you undertake this kind of ventures, you do projections in terms of the spin-off that may come out of that.
Yes.
And you need to first sell those issues to politicians.
And the spin-offs are generally long-term.
They're long-term.
Yeah.
But the unfortunate part is that politicians work on a 5-year circle, and the spin-offs are much longer than that. But politicians need to understand the country does not survive for 5 years. It survives for centuries to come. So you need to build up.
Jeez. Do you know, when you say it, and again, it goes back to a question I asked earlier about do we have the right politicians in the room?
I don't think so. I think if you look at the crop of our politicians, it leaves much more to be desired.
What is that crop? Can you describe it from your perspective?
It's the crop that lacks a long-term vision where the country needs to go. It's a crop that lacks the understanding of how to build institutional capacity. It's a crop that lacks the understanding about what is the state. And I usually make an example, David, to say the day you find a politicians, and they happen very often in this country, marching with the public against crime. And ask myself, these guys, they have the power to deal with crime.
Instead, they're
marching and demonstrating against that. And that's where you find this oxymoron that you see, that they are, instead of doing this, they're marching with the masses. You march and raise this view to try to highlight to the powers that be that these are your concerns. Now, if you see them doing that, that's what it tells you, the crop of politicians.
Yeah. That's where we are.
It's tough.
Yeah, it is tough.
But the Republic must survive beyond this.
You have played a significant role. Better part of your working career has been in public office. Remind us of some of the positions you've occupied.
You know, I was ambassador to Kenya. I was ambassador to Portugal. I was the chief of state protocol. And I was a Director General at Department of Tourism. But at Foreign Affairs, I dealt with conflict areas. And Foreign Affairs then invested in me to take me to school to go and do a PhD in conflict resolution. But when I came back from that, David, 2010, I'm doing my PhD. They said to me, Kingsley, go and run tourism. But it tells you a lack of strategic planning for the future.
True.
And those are decisions that we're taking.
We can't take you to military school, and then when you come back, we want you to go be a nurse.
That's where the huge problem is.
Yes.
It's to invest with the purpose, invest in people with the purpose of long term. What I'm starting to see happening within diplomacy now, you find a lot of political appointees that are flooding the diplomatic field. And that's eroding the institutional capability. Remember, diplomats, when they go abroad, when they come back, they occupy a post. And the knowledge they acquire outside, they plant it back into the institution. Politicians, they go out, when they come back, they disappear with that knowledge. Their term is finished. So we've regressed in terms of building institutional capability. That's why when there was a huge debate as to who to send to the United States as ambassador, I felt pity, because I know there are a lot of capable people within DECO who could have taken that function, that are not politicians, that are not going to start from scratch, that they'll hit the ground running because they've dealt with some of those dynamics in those countries.
True.
And it's across the board. It's not in the United States, it's across the board. So this thing of bringing politicians in the diplomatic field as an employment issue, it's eroding the capability. And I know that must be addressed by politicians in order to really take South Africa to the glory days.
So are we right in observing what you've just confirmed, that it's almost used as a retirement village of sorts, where when they don't know what to do with you as a politician in South Africa, they send you somewhere as a diplomat? Is that observation correct?
It's correct. You know, I read in a book written by Francois de Callier. He used to be the foreign minister in France. He's the one who founded the area of diplomacy. He writes an experience during the city system in Italy that somebody from Florence and somebody from Rome, they were discussing with the prince, a diplomat, and this diplomat made very stupid contributions. And the prince said to the diplomat, or the diplomat asked the prince, how are you handling these issues? The prince said to this diplomat, well, here in Florence, we make sure that we don't export stupid people. We keep stupidity here at home so that we can manage it. The unfortunate part, we take people who have failed in their areas, we send them out to represent the country.
That's what we do.
And that's where the problem is, because you failed to do something here. We send you out, and that's why you are seeing the erosion of the diplomatic activities of the country that is coming. That's why you're seeing this isolation, that people don't know how to deal with these issues. These are deliberate things that you're seeing. There's a casualty relationship between what they are doing and what we are not achieving.
Do you, when you look back in your career, do you find that there's a central mission that you have tried to accomplish, as in public office in particular? And if that's the case, what is that central mission that you may have, whether intentional or not, may have tried to achieve?
Well, one of the big achievements, not me, and I like always about this, it's Dr. Ayanda Ntsaluba, is the management of a huge institution like DECO. Ayanda was able to assemble good strategies. He's what I used to call a visionary leader who was able to focus, look at where the country needs to be and build institutional capability, develop really good strategic approach on the core business of the organization, but also manage the resources that was given and provided value for money. And I think that has helped in projecting our diplomacy much better in the country, and was able to build a crop of new diplomats that will succeed him. if I look at what he has done, you look at people who used to be at DEC who later became DGs in different entities. And the other day I was counting close to 8 or 12 that came from there. It tells you what he did. He said something at one stage, David, when I was at DDG. He went to evaluate my performance. I went there very happy. I've achieved all my targets, done this, I've done this.
KPIs.
Yeah. And he says to me, well, that's good. Then I expected, of course, a bonus. He said to me, no, you're not going to get a bonus, Kingsley. I said, why? He said, that's at DDG. I expect you to show me your contribution in building the organizational capability, not your branch, the organizational capability.
Wow. Yeah.
And he said, at my level, when the minister evaluates me, minister looks at my contribution to use DECO to build state capability. And he said, I assume when the minister is evaluated by the president wants to showcase how her department it's contributing in building a better country for all of us and a better world.
Yeah.
And the penny dropped. When I was a DG later, I said that to my DDGs. They didn't understand it at tourism. But later on, they started to understand how to build institutional capability. It's a collective effort. And I think if you have that kind of visionary leader, it helps actually to inspire you, not to look at the money, look at your contribution to build the institution.
Would you take up a public office again, given the opportunity?
David, I'm 65 now.
Or there's limitations to these things.
I'm 65.
Maybe you should come in as a politician. Then you can work until you're 100.
I think I've done my share.
Yeah.
I think what we need to invest in is a new generation of public servants. It's really to share with them a lot of mistakes that we made. I think I can admit I made a lot of mistakes in the public service in retrospect. And see that they don't make similar mistakes that I made. And that's the only thing that I can share. I sometimes have the privilege to go and teach students at the University of Pretoria. And I'm able to tell them the mistakes that I made and say, given the benefit of hindsight, these are the things they should manage and look for. And now that I'm outside, I'm able to critically look at issues. And I hope I would contribute moving forward doing this.
You took us there and I can't help it. What are some of the mistakes that come to mind that you feel you made and you could have done better?
I think when we were involved in resolving conflicts around the continent, we had a very good strategy in terms of starting to resolve, but we never had an exit strategy.
Got you.
I think that's one thing that we should have worked on. What is the exit strategy? In anything that we do, I think once you develop a strategy, now the minister or the director general should ask the responsible official, what is the exit strategy? And he should have a comprehensive exit strategy. And I'm saying we're using the hindsight of other countries. The United States went into war in Iran. They had no exit strategy. And that's why they're entangled in the conflict. They're making unnecessary compromises because they had no exit strategy. And I think that's one of the basic flaws that I can attribute to myself, that when advising either the DG or the minister or the president, I never went to them with an exit strategy. I went there hopeful that we're going to resolve this thing. It'll be over.
And then you go back home.
Exactly.
Yes. And that's not how these things work.
No.
Now you know that.
Yeah.
You can't just, it's not a party.
No.
Where we switch off the machine.
That everyone must go because there's no sound. No one can dance.
No.
To nothing. Yeah.
No. Doesn't work that way.
No.
That's an interesting reality. Looking now at where we are as a country, what is your vision of us? I asked this question on the radio yesterday. I said, what is an ideal South Africa for all of us? Because people were marching, people were protesting, their requirements are legitimate. And you sit back and say, what kind of country do you want to build for us? You are someone who has played such a pivotal role in public office, now observes it like most of us. What ideal South Africa do you see? We have a president whose tenure is coming to an end. So that means there's a new era that's coming, whether we like it or not. What type of country should we be hoping for? And can we even achieve that?
David, the most crucial thing in this multipolar world that is starting to emerge is to develop new sources of power. In the past, the sources of power have been military, economy, and technology. Now, I'm saying Iran has shown that the geostrategic location can become a source of power.
Where you are in the world.
Yeah. I mean, Iran have used Strait of Hormuz to battle and win battle through that. I think we have the Cape of Good Hope, a very strategic location. Within that, you have the Simonstown naval base that everyone wants and can be used as a source of power. I think we must start to understand sources of power. I've seen last week in the media that we've managed to start blending some of the rare earths, which the contest around the world is around rare earths. So I don't think we need to convert our new sources of power in a cohesive manner, but in a soft manner, that we can use that to exchange and bargain with the rest of the world. We need to consolidate them. And I think now, if you were to speak to some of our bureaucrats to say, this multipolar world you're talking about, what are the sources of power? Remember, the sources of power projection, it does not necessarily mean you have to go to war. It means you have to be able to get what you want. Power, actually, is the ability to get what you want. Now, if you are able to use that to get what you want, I think that's what we need to start consolidating and start talking about. And we need to look at our strength. We produce 70% or 78, 76% of the global platinum. Do we understand the power that we have because of that? For many years, we control large ore in the country, except in the last year that in West Africa, I think in Mali, they discovered more. Do we understand the power that we have to bargain with the rest of the world?
We still have more coal, even if it's a debatable product.
We have coal.
But we still have more coal than
it's a source
of the world. Yes.
Do we understand how we can use that as a source of power projection? And when we get people to convince us to move from coal, when coal is power, when they have developed because of coal, they are where they are because of coal. Do we understand we are abandoning a source of power? I think we need to consolidate this thing and understand what is the power that South Africa will bring into the world and how to bargain with the rest of the world using this power. Not to confront our strategic strength, David, is not on cohesive power, but it's on soft power, how to use it and project it around the world.
And it's clear that we are not there.
We're not there.
Because we are now facing a political environment that is a coalition, and we spend more time fighting for position. We're speaking today, the day after the president has done a soft reshuffle.
Late at night,
which reminiscent of our past presidents. Yeah. We used to do things like that late at night. I'm sure a lot of South Africans are not even aware that there was a soft reshuffle that happened in the middle of the night, and mostly because of a GNU partnership. That's why there's been that shift of power. The party has a shift of power, so as a result, they had to implement it here. Are we even in that state of reality where we are aware of this big house that we're running and its dynamics and power dynamics that you speak of now? Are we even aware? You know, when you're holding gold, but you're not aware of its value. Are we even aware of the value of the country that we have in our hand?
You know, the irony is that this reshuffle that was done by the president is that during the course of this serious disturbances that were happening in the country, where our focus is on that.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, there's a huge change movement of people. I think the coalition government that exists has made South Africa to look inward, much more focus on internal issues. If you were to ask now on key issues that are coming up around the world, the G20, the United States, are we making any contribution, even through the back door, if we're not participating to ensure that some of the decisions that were taken here, some of those countries that are participating, they're able to keep on these issues on the agenda? I don't know. Are we able to understand that the conflict that is raging in the Middle East, how to resolve it and the impact that it has on us? and to project if this conflict goes on, what is the likely impact it would have on us. And if the oil price, the oil price the other day was $69, I was saying hallelujah. And the tension that it keeps on building up between Iran and the US will take us to the stage where it was running close to $100 and something per barrel. Do we understand why the Houthis now are starting a conflict with Saudi Arabia? And what impact will the Strait of Bab al-Mandab have if it's shut down? What impact it will have? It still has 15% of global logistics that moves in through that area to the Red Sea. And how do we mitigate this? When the oil crisis hit us, did we have enough reserves to cushion us? China had about 1.3 billion liters of crude oil.
So they didn't even move.
No, they didn't even fill it to cushion them. Where were we standing? Are we starting to build this? Are we starting to look at the Cape of Good Hope as an alternative in terms of movement of ships, to build institutional capacity at the Cape of Good Hope, to service ships, to repair them, commercial and otherwise, even military one? Are we starting to understand doing those issues and understand these are sources of power? I'm worried because they're not saying anything. I was talking to the transport industry at one stage, and I was talking to them just before the conflict in the Middle East. And I was telling them about this potential of the Cape of Good Hope. And I've spoken to politicians around it to say, this is gold, we're sitting on it. So we seem not to understand what we are having. And the only way to understand is once it's gone. Sometimes it's very difficult to bring it back once it's gone.
You only understand its value when it's no longer around.
Absolutely.
There are men who are watching this saying, I lost that woman. I only understood when she's
gone
anymore.
Yeah.
Yes, but it shouldn't be difficult for us to understand the value of the Cape of Good Hope. That's how we have Afrikaners in the country. That's how the Dutch found us.
I think we don't at a strategic level, because if we understood what it means, we'd have invested in it. I saw an article written by a guy called Joshua Mesevi. He's with the Huston Institute in the US. It's a very right-wing think tank.
Yeah.
And he was saying that America should not give away the Cape of Good Hope. And that's why you're seeing the talks about the cessation of the Cape of Good Hope. And these rare earths that I'm talking about, the magnet rare earths and the combination, have been found in the Cape.
Yes.
Do we understand what we're having? Do we understand the global agenda that is coming, how it needs to undercut? It's a strong South Africa. People have said it quite openly in the past. It's not good for the rest of the world, particularly the Western world. It's uncomfortable with a strong South Africa that it's independent in the projection of its foreign policy. They need a South Africa that becomes kind of a vassal state that is dependent on Big Brother.
Yeah. Pause. It's getting you water. Next time you do this, just bring another glass. Take it and replace. It's quicker. A weak South Africa is good for certain people, but a strong South Africa is good for its people, and it's good for the rest of Africa.
And it's good for the progressive world. And the challenge is that with the emergence of the far right around the world, an independent South Africa that has the capability to interface with both world, the Western world, and other civilization, it's not good.
For others, it's not.
For other good, it's not good.
However, isn't that an ideal scenario?
It's an ideal scenario. That's why multipolarity, it means you have a melting pot of different powers that are able to bargain and exchange goods with each other and are interdependent and are able to help each other in moving up.
Yeah.
Not to dominate each other.
No.
No.
But we exist in a world where there's great efforts to try to dominate. There's effort where powers getting diminished and they're fighting to hold on to it. That's the reality that we're seeing right now. What is your understanding of the shift in power that seems obvious, but not to everyone?
There's an American academic who wrote a wonderful article, get it at one stage, Graham Ellis. It's called the Thucydides trap. Xi Jinping spoke about it when Donald Trump was in the U.S. It dates back to 3,400 years ago.
Wow.
When Athens as a city was gaining prominence and threatening Sparta.
Mm-hmm.
And the war was inevitable because the other one is rising to catch up with the one that has risen.
Mm.
And that's why Xi Jinping spoke about being careful of this Thucydides trap, because it does not necessarily mean those who are rising. It's a cause for a war.
Of fear.
A fear for war.
Yes.
It means you have to balance these issues at a very strategic level.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what
those are the lessons from
340 years,
yes.
3,400 years ago,
Yeah.
that are being used to try to compare this emergence of power and the balance of power, and no longer a realist approach in terms of what the balance of power is, that military is where an international relation is anarchic situation that requires strong military response, that you can do away without that. So this new concept that are starting to emerge, and I'm glad in certain institutions here, there's a huge debate around some of these issues and how to help the state in developing appropriate policies. But do we have appropriate platform between the academia and the government in exchange of research and so on? And I think we have huge capability of research in this country, but I don't think it's better utilized by the state.
Yeah.
And that's why I go back to my mentor, Ayanda, who worked with the University of Pretoria to develop this exchange. A research that were done were to be integrated within the department also to build institutional capacity because it was intended for a particular theme. The Americans are very good in this. If you look at people who become advisors and so on, they are coming from academia as professors. They've developed the research in there. They are brought in government. When they finish in government, they go back to the academia.
Yeah.
And they go and create new crop and so on.
Yeah.
And that's why when you see this development of people, you ask yourself, where are they coming
Where they come from, yeah.
And yet you don't realize that they don't discard anything. They utilize it.
Yeah. Jeez. That says a lot about us if you're saying we are not utilizing the very strong research capabilities. COVID showed how great we are. Yes, even though to a point where we even ended up with strains that were named after us.
Yeah.
Because we were the first to find those strains. Yes.
Yeah.
So we don't have a problem of knowledge and research.
No, the knowledge and the intellectual capability exist within the country, but we don't utilize that. Because utilizing that will require even funding some of these activities. You know, when Al Gore and Bill Clinton were running for office in 1991, I was in the US.
Yeah.
And Al Gore was talking about information highway. I did not understand at that stage to build this information highway in the United States.
That's what we deal with now.
Years later,
Yes.
we have Google. We have all these things that have emerged there. But it tells you there was a deliberate effort even in terms of funding research in those areas. If you look at our research and development fund, it's very minute, very little. But you look at the Chinese spend about 12% of their GDP in research and development. And you are able to see the results. You are able to see how they are becoming a big power in terms of research. And I mean, the Chinese motor industry, David, 10 years ago, we didn't know anything about.
No.
But look at the prominence they have gained now.
It's becoming
the biggest in the world. The EV is bigger than anything else in the world.
It's the youngest and yet the biggest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's because of a deliberate investment in research and development. And I think we need to invest in research and development as a country.
You know, if you talk about the biggest and the youngest, even the Chinese economy is amongst the youngest and yet one of the biggest, if not close to being the biggest.
I mean, the Chinese economy about 35 years or 40 years ago was about $1 trillion. No, actually, they were not even a trillion. 35 years ago.
It was a farmland of what rice and all of that. And that's not long ago.
But look at their infrastructure. They're using artificial intelligence to design their new infrastructure development.
Yeah.
And they're succeeding. I mean, the Chinese now, in terms of the high-speed trains, I mean, they have trains that are running at 600 kilometers per hour. And if it moves, I mean, the other day they were showing, you see Putin and Xi Jinping sitting in a train having tea. The cup of tea is full to the brim. It doesn't even spill.
Yes.
There's a level of technology.
Yeah. It shows you, imagine that train would move from Joburg to Devon in an hour and a half.
We could actually live in Devon and come and work here.
And work in Johannesburg. And go to work every day.
And work in
And have
Cape Town.
dinner with your family at home.
Exactly.
Huh. You know, when you say all these lofty things, it makes it sound like we don't know what's happening. And sometimes when you speak to and interact with government officials at senior level, it almost sounds like they don't know what else is happening around the world. What is holding us back?
David, remember when this 7th administration came into power, the president said we're going to build a new city. He said we're going to build a high-speed train. Where are we?
A city of the future. We have to define it properly.
Yeah.
Yes. It's not just new.
No.
It's
city
a
of the
city
future.
of the future.
That is very integrated, high-tech, everything.
Yes.
Where are we? Have we, you maybe in the communication space, have you asked them, how far are we with the project?
Yeah.
How far are we with the fast train, the bullet train that moved from Devon to Joburg? How far are we? The Chinese built a huge power station within a month. Not a train station, within a month.
They built a hospital within a week during COVID.
Yeah, within a week. A huge hospital, not Mkuku.
No.
A huge hospital. Why can't we do that? I mean, I went to Beijing one day. You arrive there late at night. They are fixing the road. The following day, you drive on the same road. You can't believe.
Yeah.
This has been done. When traffic
Overnight.
is flowing, it's done. In this country, in 1994, when we got in power, I used to live in Joburg and I worked in Pretoria. Sometimes I'll come from Pretoria at 10 o'clock at night going home. And I'll see people fixing the road.
Cleaning the road, I remember.
Fixing potholes, putting new tarred road. The following day when I go to work, I couldn't believe it's the same highway.
Yeah. There was that. And I know this experience well because I used to do nighttime radio for a long time. And I would travel from SABC to Midrand every night, and I would see these activities. And I remember thinking, this is such a cool thing that it doesn't disrupt your flow during the day. But when you wake up, it looks good.
It's done.
Yeah.
What happened to that? Maybe we need to go to the drawing board and ask ourselves, where did we regress? One thing that we are bad as a country, David, it's to do an introspection on everything that we do.
Yeah.
Do an introspection. How did we fail? How did we succeed? We're very bad at that. And as long as we don't do that, we're unlikely to find innovative ways to mitigate our challenges. We are likely to repeat the same mistake. As somebody said, you keep on doing the same thing and expect different results. That's what we're doing.
What is the source of that inability of introspection? Because introspection is not easy. If you have a problem of alcohol and you're asked to look at yourself and accept that this is a problem, and whatever problem you're having, whatever addiction you're having, introspection is looking at yourself in the mirror and being honest with yourself. And if we are incapable of doing that, surely we'll never fix anything. What is the reality? Is it a cultural thing? Where does that come from? That
David, I grew up in the ANC. We used to have what we call criticisms and self-criticisms. And we will stand up in a meeting with our commanders and everyone. And we'll say, this is what we think we are not doing in terms of the armed struggle.
This is prior to this. We have to separate the ANC and the ANC.
And the current one.
Yes, so this is prior to liberation, to the 94.
And would get the leaders come into the camp and would discuss the armed struggle. And we would say, why is the armed struggle not working? We'll criticize the leadership. And we'll then criticize ourselves to say, well, people who got arrested in Secunda, we think it's a poor training that we are involved here and how we can improve it. And I think now criticism is seen as an attack. It's not seen as a reflection to improve. It's not seen as a very good learning curve for the hindsight, how we should have done things. And as long as we don't do that, we spoke earlier, me and you, about the training of Libyans who came here. We've never come back to say this is what happened and this is how we should prevent it from happening in future. And as long as we don't do that, we're going to be walking into this trap, a cycle of doing the same mistake and redoing the same mistake again.
Sure.
And expect that things will improve.
Is there, because self-reflection is hard, eh?
It's hard because it actually sometimes you have to question yourself.
You have to say, I'm wrong.
I'm wrong. And how I need to improve next time. I've had the president on a few occasions saying to the voters that here we've been wrong and so on. But we get that pronounced very strongly within the system of our government. No. Take what happened in 2001 and 2021, the civil unrest, which has led to us spending
600 million.
600 million.
Yes.
And calling large contingents of police. What was the basis? Was it based on a serious reflection, lessons of what happened in 2021, or was it driven by fear? I think it was driven by fear to prevent what happened then. And that's why in certain cycles was seen as intimidation because we didn't do proper reflection. And if you look at what happened on the ground, you can tell it was not informed by intelligence. There were no violence, nothing at all. And part of 2021 is that the intelligence failed. You remember?
They did, completely.
But no one told us this time around how we're going to beef up the intelligence.
Yeah.
So that's where the challenge. We're afraid to accept that we failed because there are certain things that we didn't do. I think once we realize that an introspection is part of the learning and growth, that you grow from your own introspection.
We've become a country of commissions, a country of... they are named after judges, as they should. But we've become a country of judges are far more famous than musicians. What is happening to us?
Go back, Your Majesty, to the Zondo Commission. What happened to that report? What happened to the implementation? What is the timeline for that? Nothing. This commission of Madlanga, at least you've seen people arrested, was listening to the news, see people resigned, some were dismissed. Everything that happens as a commission or there's a task team, there's a war room.
Hey.
Now,
it's the favorite word in government, this war room.
Exactly. And yet the executive powers that rest with the president, it's so huge. Actually, the executive powers that he has are tantamount to Caesarian powers during Caesar's time. Wow.
And it's gotten bigger in South Africa.
It's very
with the president bringing
consolidating everything in his office.
Power. Yes.
And you ask yourself, why is he not taking decisions and live with the consequences? I think as an ordinary South African, I would forgive the president if tomorrow he comes and say, I took this decision. In retrospect, I realized I was wrong. But I think at that time, I thought it was correct. I'll say he's a good man. He took a decision at least. Do whatever you do or say whatever you want to say about Jacob Zuma. If you want to take a decision, he would take it. However wrong it was. And I hope he was taking good decision. The country will be far from what it is today. Here, we're in a paralysis situation, not taking decision, living through commissions, not even implementing decisions of the commission. The president has received a midterm report of the Madlanga. He hasn't told us about the timeline for the implementation. What is the need of receiving a midterm report and not implement it? Things are clearly now what needs to be done. And I think that's where the shortcomings in terms of the system, running by commission or running by division. Remember, by virtue of its composition, the cabinet is a working team. So there are people who are allocated different responsibility that can take action, can recommend to the president, take action as a collective cabinet.
Yes.
So cabinet is no longer making decisions, waiting for commissions.
We have gotten here because corruption has infiltrated our system. It's the order of the day in government. Where did we lose our morality? We grew up with a very high level of morality, not only in our communities, in our homes, but also as a society as a whole.
I think the whole idea of accumulation and
Of wealth. Yes.
And sometimes the abuse of this wealth. I mean, I did not know, David, there's a bottle of whiskey that it's cost 250,000 rand.
I still don't know that.
You see people doing that and posting it on social media. That's what they drank. And I think there's a type of society we're building. We've become gluttons. We eat more than what we need. And we've lost passion to help those who are struggling. If you look at the level of distribution of wealth in this country, it makes me ashamed sometimes of the little bit that I think I have. And I'm not rich, but you look at ordinary people who are living from hand to mouth on a daily basis. It's quite shocking. Are we extending a hand of help to those people? If we were doing that, we would instill a different morality even within our politicians. If you look at the consumption by our politicians, it's quite shocking. And it's not stopping, and that's why it's fueling this corruption. Corruption now has become ingrained in our system of politics, and I'm just worried that it becomes difficult to resolve it. I was reading something on the Sonora a syndicate from Mexico by Guzman, how he ran that, and I've learned that they've started to establish themselves here to manufacture drugs in the country. Those are very vicious gangs, and these are gangs that are very difficult to dismantle. Mexico and the United States are struggling to dismantle
for many, many years.
If they were to get a foothold in this country, we are finished, and it seems they're getting a foothold. They're buying politicians, they're buying everything. Our ability to act and resort to commission instead of taking action. I mean, take what Mkhwanazi said. If the president had taken a decision to say, let there be action on these allegations, we'll be far from where we are now.
Instead of
because
the long route of commission.
The long route of commission, because evidence is there. And meanwhile, a lot of people are being assassinated. Potential witnesses are taken off. So by the time you go the legal route, there wouldn't be any witnesses to testify, meaning that the criminal syndicate would have taken over. If you look at how the Sonora syndicate works in Mexico, they write judgments for judges because they coerce them. If judges take action, they kill them. The current president has been very bold enough to take action against them. And I wouldn't be surprised if there are dozens of attempts to take her out. But at least she's been very bold in terms of taking action against the syndicate. Are we doing the same in this country for emerging syndicate? I don't think we are.
If we are, it's clearly not enough.
They are taking over.
You made reference to an unequal society that is continuing to be unequal. There are politicians who are quick to say we're a society of people who get free almost everything, basic needs except for electricity and so forth. Even though there are townships today that though people who live there know they've never paid for a single day of electricity, yet they get electricity every day. Is it justified for those politicians to say, well, we're giving you something? Is it justified for those politicians to be saying that?
What they are giving making an impact? I saw an article yesterday about people who are getting this 350 to say they can use it to tour the country, to experience tourism in the country. And I was asking myself, 350 will not even get a family to sit down for a lunch in any facility around the country. Have we lost touch with what is going on at the political level? And I think our politicians have lost touch with reality because everything they have is subsidized, David. Their accommodation, the flight, their transport. So it's subsidized. They're not living in a real world. I think the day they start living in a real world, they start realizing how difficult it is. And I think we need to do something now in terms of the real life, because each time they go and campaign, things have been done for them. They go and walk in red carpet, shake hands and go on. And they provide food, and they think these people are eating on a daily basis. Some of these people, it's their first and their last meal for the day. And that's where the huge challenge is really to take themselves to this reality that exists. I go still to my township very often, and it's quite depressing sometimes coming from home to see how people have become destitute. At first, there were hopes. I'm not talking about villages. I live and go into areas like Jericho and so on. At one stage, there were water pipes on every street. There's no more water. The water tanks have taken over. They call them the water mafia. And they go and get this water free. They are paid by the state. But instead of delivering the water free, they sell it to people. So they're double dipping in some of these issues. It's a huge challenge.
Yeah. And that's where we are.
That's where we are. It's accumulation. It's a nature. But I'm afraid what happened on the 30th of June would probably set a new precedent. It has shown that the public society or the civil society are able to push the government to the limit. And they've realized how paralyzed is government. I wouldn't be surprised in future if you start to see serious insurrections that are intended to topple the government, because they realize they can do it. It can be done.
Yeah.
I think this was perhaps maybe a dress rehearsals by some people who are great thinkers who are looking at this as an instrument to move their agenda and how to use it. Remember, when you instigate for insurrection, you use existing issues, you use reality, you don't use fiction. And you can turn that reality to perpetuate your interests. Coming back to the instrumentalist perspective, you can see that as an instrument of projecting your power, attaining power. I think they've shown the state is paralyzed. The state is in fear. I mean, the president met with some of the organizers of this. Me and you tomorrow, if we can want to get a meeting with the president to talk about positive things that we need to do, we won't get it. So in order to get government to listen to, and this is a narrative that is going ahead, you need to threaten violence. Government will listen to you. It's unfortunate that we've reached this stage.
Has corruption tainted our country's image worldwide?
It has. We've lost the moral authority to speak about how to deal with corruption. When I was in Kenya, the Kenyans used to have a mantra that Moi used to phone Abacha in Nigeria and say to him, "Why are you giving corruption a bad name?" Because in Kenya, corruption was seen as institutionalized during the Moi era. And I used to be frightened by that. But unfortunately, it has reached that level here.
I've heard of a phrase, Nairobi, referring to Nairobi.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
It's quite correct.
Yeah.
But our corruption has become very violent because of the resources that are involved in corruption. And that's why you're seeing this level of violence. I mean, David, tell me, anywhere in the world, and this is how I grew up, to have a mine that is run by Zamazama and they're able to extract gold. Mine is just not hiding. It's a big hole that you go into it. You don't do it over a few seconds it takes you months, even years to dig that gold. But where does it go after that?
Yeah.
Who benefits from it?
And why is it not stopped?
Why is it not stopped?
Yeah.
Because people who are benefiting, and some people are saying, well, those who are in government are benefiting. They're the ones who are running this issue. I don't know how true is that, but it raises serious concern about lack of willingness to deal with some of these challenges.
Yeah. Are we in trouble?
In serious trouble. Not only in trouble, we're in serious trouble at the state. There's a talk about, and I see people using this very loosely, that we are in a failed state phase. I don't think we have reached that. I have done a detailed research on state failure phenomena. But if you look at some of the things that are happening, are indicating that our state is on the path to failure if there are no interventions. Sometimes state failure doesn't knock, or it doesn't come in clearly packaged. It's a phenomena that sometimes is quite complex, and it comes in. Once it's in, it becomes very difficult to manage it. I think if we are not careful, our state is going to fail. Yeah. Because look, for instance, David, the question of taxation. The only entity that it's allowed to do tax people is a state. That's why in the system of the state, there are three monopolies of the state. One of the monopoly is to tax. The other monopoly of the state is to legislate laws. The other one is to use legitimate violence. Legitimate violence. But that legitimate violence space is contested by criminals. So you have illegitimate violence that is taking place that the state sometimes is afraid of it. And that's how the states start getting hollowed. You're getting people that are organizing themselves along paramilitary, civil military units that are starting to create a huge threat to the state. The private security companies are much more than the police. And
better trained,
better resourced, and well financed. So you can see the state is starting to get hollowed. And actually they are recruiting from the state. They are taking the best of what the state has recruited into their private security, which is not supposed to be the case.
But he's nenkinga eningi in Zulu. Remathateng amaholo.
Yeah.
Wow. I sit and wonder if we have a Messiah complex of waiting for a savior. That's the type of people we are. The Bible, does the same. It tells you of a savior who's going to come and rescue all our problems. The Mandela phenomenon also created a culture of there's a savior that's coming to help all of us. Do we have a savior?
We have a savior, and that savior is ourselves. We need to change the consumption pattern in our democracy. If people are not performing, we need to take people that we elect are not performing, we need to take them out.
Yeah.
And we need to look at programs that they are presenting to us, are they going to solve? And we need to get them now during the campaigns to come and evaluate if they have done what they told us they're going to do across the board. If they are not doing that, we can't keep on electing same people, expecting different results.
But we do.
We do.
How do we do that?
That's why I'm saying this thing is within our powers. The day we start holding everyone accountable is the day we're going to start to realize the power of vote that we have. And I think as a society, we have much bigger powers to use. And we have a leverage to use over our politicians. Do we know if we have that? I don't think we do. I think ordinary people don't understand they have a leverage to change, to effect change, and to enforce change, and to ensure it happens.
Then it speaks to a lot of things, including education. That inability to understand the power of your vote. It speaks to how we're educated about this thing.
Absolutely. That's why you see this now, David, when people are talking about foreign nationals, they're not talking about the local government is coming. They're not talking about failure of local government to deliver certain services. No. They want to brush this to foreign nationals and not take responsibility for failure. To let the whole sewage system, water system, electrical system, storm water system to collapse. And yet it has been allocated money. I mean, if you go to the treasurer allocation, you go and look at infrastructure, you can actually trace it, David, to a municipality in a particular area, how much they've been given. Look at the storm system and drainage system cleaning. It doesn't happen. You ask yourself, what happened to this money?
Yeah.
And I mean, I live in this area. Madibeng is the municipality. The other day, it's a joint municipality. It's Madibeng and Tshwane. Madibeng performs certain functions. And if you go and look at what Madibeng has been allocated, and you look at the services on the ground, it's really disheartening that poor communities actually keep on suffering. If you go to areas that sewage have been spilling on the street in villages in Macau, you ask yourself what happened. You go to Bloemfontein areas, you find sewage that is spilling on the street and money has been allocated. Nothing. You go to Cape Town, you find the same thing. People have been living with sewer that is spilling on the street. They actually walk on it. And you ask yourself, what happened? It dehumanizes all of us. But money has been allocated. Ask yourself what happened to them.
My point is we still vote for the same people.
We do that. We'll go to Khayelitsha and vote for same people that are not providing the services. And now we deflect this because elections are coming up to foreign national. Why this foreign national issue, David, comes up now before elections? Why it hasn't come up throughout the year before the announcement? And why is it becoming so prominent now? It's because politicians are driving this.
Could it be also, devil's advocate, could it be also that the time would have come when South Africans will just be tired? That time was imminent at whatever point. It's been spoken about as ticking time bomb for many, many years.
Yeah, but as a political scientist, David, I believe there's no coincidence. There's no accident that everything happened and it happened at a particular time and there's a reason for it to happen at that time. And I think the reason for this to become such a big issue now is the fact that the local government elections are coming up. Is that the political parties across the board, they've included the question of foreign nationals now in their plank. That the government now start talking more about deporting foreign nationals who are here illegally because it's convenient. They are trying to massage the anger of people, and a legitimate anger to some extent. But the time and space of managing that is what worries me. I don't think time and space is always accidental. I think it comes because of certain issues that have matured at that particular time.
Is the president's, we're concluding, the president's impeachment problems likely to further complicate South Africa's political dynamic?
No doubt about it. I think the president is boxed now, trying to defend his legacy, defending himself. It's logical for anyone facing these challenges that
fighting
you want
for
to
his
defend
life.
yourself. That's why in government, when they want to kick you out, sometimes they say we suspend you to go and organize your defense so that you spend time organizing your defense, not running the issues. I think the president is in the same quagmire to try to defend himself, but yet he has the responsibility to run the state, and I think it will have an impact, no doubt about it. Yeah.
What type of, and this is, I'm asking you to be a traditional healer at Sangoma, what type of outcome are we likely to see?
I don't know, and I'm not a lawyer.
I don't think anybody does, but let's hear.
I've looked into some of the challenges that are built into the accusation against the president. And what bothers me most, David, is what the president has come out saying in one interview, that he's making arrangement to send the money back to Mustafa.
So that money is still around.
That's what he said that time. Maybe I send it back now. But what worries me that is that this money, the SARS, our tax authority, said it was brought into the country legally. Now, proceeds of anything that is smuggled into the country forfeited to the state. There's a guy in Limpopo who was caught with about 1.5 million rand in cash, and he forfeited to the state. Not to say he stole it from anyone, because you're not allowed to keep that amount of money with you. It's hoarding money. It's a violation of the law. And I got worried that why would you send proceeds of crime to a criminal who brought it in the country illegally? And I think those are issues that are going to be very difficult. And I think if I listen to the narrative going around, it will really affect the credibility of the state, of the president to run through that impeachment, and the trust in our state and the interaction with other heads of state. They'll see him as this criminal. So it raises a lot of questions. Having said that, does the president have the right to defend himself? Well, of course, like all of us, he has the right to ensure that all the laws apply. But the only difference is that the president has the powers even to appoint people who can investigate him.
And those who can judge him.
Those who can judge him. That's where the issue is.
Yeah.
Me and you don't have that. We don't decide our jury and our judges.
So I guess in that context, we're hoping for independent minds.
We're hoping for independent mind. But the nature of our system and our dispensation is that the president has the Caesarean powers that I told you about. I think moving forward, we need to change that. I've been to a workshop organized by the Department of Justice where we spoke about the SIU. The SIU, David, cannot come and investigate me and you without the proclamation by the president. That's abnormal. They're supposed to be totally independent, and they're supposed to investigate without fear.
Yes.
And if this happens, this is perpetuated, it's going to compromise the country moving forward. I think when it was designed, it was good, and we designed the system around individual. It was Mandela. And we never thought that there would be people. And I think there will be people moving forward who may circumvent that. How will the SIU, for instance, investigate the Phala issue for the state?
If they get a proclamation from
this president himself. And that's why when the Zondo Commission was appointed, people insisted it can't be because the accused or allegations that were made were against JZ, that the powers were temporarily moved to the president, to the deputy president, but they function in the same executive.
And if you understand ANC politics, a president is very powerful within the ANC.
Yeah. So it's the same executive.
Yeah.
So those are the challenges. I think our democratic institutions are maturing. And one thing that it's positive that has come out of this thing is the level of powers and the limitation of powers, of the Caesarean powers that the president has. And one of them came during the Madonsela's era, where it was said the decisions of the public protector are binding. And I think that's where we've tested powers of the president. But I think there are other institutions that haven't come out of this era and matured to see the limitation and manage the limitation of the president. But we have enough lessons that we can draw from and see what is that we need to reform and to strengthen moving forward.
We also saw a Mogoeng call a president that appointed him a constitutional delinquent. So that's the independence that we're hoping for.
Exactly. And we've seen that even with a judge who came with this findings on the Phala. He still serves as a judge. Remember, they are judged for life.
Yes.
And that they are basis for the president to go and account. So the level of independence is still there, but I think it needs to be strengthened in terms of powers. How to be strengthened? And that's me, I'm in favor of a system that the parliamentary process must work like what the US does. There are checks and balances in terms of appointment.
Yes.
And there are open interviews. The interviews that are conducted now by politicians for appointment of judges, I think are good, but are not legally binding on the president. And we've seen where they recommend something, and he goes to decide on his own. So they
even the appointment of what is the role that leads the prosecution?
Yeah, the NPA.
NPA, yeah. Exactly. It was long series of interviews.
And this was not part of the people interviewed?
No, not at all. And it's like, yeah, we see that, but this is
what I want.
Yeah.
So he could have done that from the beginning.
Yeah.
I think that's where we need to strengthen the institutional capability.
You know, it's we've spoken about diplomacy, we've spoken about migration, xenophobia, we've spoken about South African politics and its reputation throughout the world. And I want to say thank you, Dr. Kingsley Makhubela.
Thanks.
Yeah, we are.
The pleasure is really mine. Lovely to talk to you, Your Majesty. I always try to get on your radio station. It's very difficult to get that.
Keys, you should keep sending your voice notes. One day we'll play your.
I'm not yet on the voice notes things, you know.
You must move with the times.
I'm still backward with that.
We must move with the times.
No, thanks very much for the opportunity to talk to you.
Thank you. I appreciate you sharing, because we thought about you and we realized that we are dealing with a diplomatic challenge here. We're dealing with a reputational challenge, and you play a role so strongly in both spaces. I wish you well.
Thank you very much. Thanks very much, David. Really appreciate those.
Are you officially retired?
I am. I'm retired.
So it's how do you spend your days?
I do a lot of research, and I do a lot of, I've subscribed to many global newspapers.
Okay.
And unfortunately, they take most of my retirement money to read them. 4 o'clock, I'm up, I read them.
I noticed you arrive here so early.
I follow international news, what's going on.
Yeah.
And now and then I get the opportunity to speak to our news station. And so
recently you were on SABC, I think.
Yeah. And I follow your radio station very much. And I used to like one guy, give him my regard, Just Ice.
He's still around. You should tune into him in the evening.
He does the music thing late at night.
Yes.
Yeah. But I used to like when he was doing the morning breakfast.
Yes.
A very good sense of humor. So you guys are part of my heroes that I keep on listening to you and follow. Sometimes I try to call in, but I realize the call list is so big.
You can't get through.
Yeah. The only people who have me in their speed dial are Power. That's the radio station where I called. They would say, "Oh, it's you."
That's why you had my conversation with Ndlo.
Exactly.
Yes, that's why you.
So it's part of what I follow.
Yeah.
I have a lot of favorite journalists also there that I also follow. I follow other media houses that really discuss different things. And ironically, I also follow some of the vernacular stations,
of course,
like Motsweding and Palapala and Mungana. And they have very interesting things, and we keep on learning. Some of the things that I say, I learn from them.
100%.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoy the music on our radio station.
Oh, I do.
Yeah.
I do. But you worry me when you play I Stand Accused, you cut it. You don't play all of it.
You're not the first to say that. And I realize that we may have a shorter version in the system.
Yeah.
See, this is what happens with radio. When musicians release an album, they would release a popular song. They would also release a radio version, a radio cut. Because a radio cut is shorter.
Yeah.
On radio, we don't have the luxury of playing songs very, very
9
long.
minutes.
Exactly. So that's what happens. And you're not the first to say that we play a shortened version of that song. And they blame me for cutting it. And I realized that I play all of it.
I kept on blaming you. I said, David is cutting this. Now, I would have it sometimes. When you cut it, I'll then go and play it, because then it's ringing in my head.
Then I'm losing
It has taken me to the township.
Then I'm losing you as a listener.
Yeah, but I really enjoy your shows.
Thank you.
Particularly your Wednesday show.
Yes.
Around employment.
We're recording this on a Wednesday. That's the focus today on the show. Yes.
Okay.
It's about jobs and solving a big South African crisis.
You're doing very
whose socioeconomic impact is so great. So we realize the importance of it.
And I like the topic sometimes that you raise. Whose girlfriend, whose boyfriend, whose dad, whose stepchild, paternity test.
You were listening.
I listened to those.
That was like a week ago.
No, I really like your shows, There are a few shows that I like around our radio stations. And they are quite useful. Sometimes I get so angry when I go to a meeting and I have to stop and keep on listening to the show. And I realize you have something that is coming up.
Yes.
And I can't, because I have a meeting this side.
Thank you for supporting us. Thanks for supporting SABC. I hope you're paying your TV license.
I do.
It's the right thing to do.
I do. I pay it.
Yeah.
And sometimes I get so angry that I may decide not to pay it, but I pay it. The other day I paid late and they gave me a fine.
Yes.
And I paid a fine grudgingly.
But
because I was 2 months.
Money,
I was 2 months late.
But it's not a lot of money, though.
It's not.
It's less than 150 rands, if I recall.
It's 250 something.
Oh, you would know, because you remember you also paid a fine. So maybe you're adding the fine as part of the.
No, the normal amount is 250 something.
Yeah. It's and I like that you're expressing all of this, and then I mention license because you're enjoying the benefits of
I do.
that money.
You know, I have one attitude, David. I pay my municipality bills.
You pay your
I pay my radios.
Yes.
And I really don't worry about what municipalities do about the money. I think I have a responsibility to pay all my bills.
True.
And what they do, I can worry about the abuse of that. But I realize I have a responsibility. It's like the radio. People would complain. But, you know, I have a lot of shows sometimes that I'm conflicted within the radio that I don't have time to run through them. And I realize, why should I get this free? And that's why I keep on paying my TV license.
100%.
That my TV license gives me radio. The other day I was so worried. I heard that we're going to pay radio license even on the cars. It was fake news.
It was.
And the CEO of SABC came back to say it was CEO. I was mad. I was saying, I'm paying this. I'm going to pay this again. I'm not going to do this. Then I realized it was fake news.
Yes, and the beauty of really the value of the fee is that there are people who rely solely on SABC platforms for communication, for information, for knowledge, for education, for entertainment. And without this payment, we are doing a huge disservice to the majority of South Africans who only rely on this source.
But I think there should be better management of this within the SABC, the licensing. I don't think it's better explained. Some of my peers that we do think they don't pay.
No, of course.
And there's
they say, why should I pay?
Yeah, there's a great channel that you can get thousands of things. And people have been saying to me, go and do this. Once I realized it's a great thing, I decided I'm not going to get involved in this.
No.
I still pay my subscription to DSTV.
Yes.
And I'd rather watch those things, even though there are thousands of channels there to watch. But I realize, you know, as a citizen, sometimes to do the right thing.
You have to do the right thing, eh?
It pays to do the right thing, David.
I agree.
But thank you very much. I really appreciate your voice. And always really grateful for some of the things that you raised.
You must watch the episode we recorded with the Border Management Authority. It's a hot favorite of a lot of people because they get to learn the problems of the borders in South Africa.
I would watch it, actually.
We'll send you a link. Check it out.
Great.
Thank you again.
Thanks, bro.
Thank you.
King David Studio Podcast.